best to ensure that we serve all of our people. Thank you so much, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, this afternoon I want to draw the House's attention to the report tabled at 2 o'clock that, far from what the last Minister said in the House, that the priorities are housing, health or education, what this report recommends is the biggest increase in the funding of Parliament in over 25 years, a 20% increase, an extra $13 million a year. It's an insult to taxpayers. It's a recipe for the parties in this coalition government to rort the taxpayer for their political positioning. The first thing this report proposes is deeply ironic, because in the controversial electoral law changes, members opposite have lectured us about the importance of the party vote, that the number of MPs must absolutely reflect the party vote, except when it comes to funding of political parties. What this report says is that a guaranteed level of funding, regardless of how many votes you get at the election. It is a rort for the Green Party and the New Zealand First Party, whose support is falling in the polls, and this report says that they will get 8% of the funding, even if their public support is a fraction of that, and I say that is nothing short of a rort by government parties to secure taxpayer funding. And then we come to this next proposition, and that is that list MPs will get the same funding of democratically elected constituency MPs. Now, just by coincidence, Mr Speaker, just a coincidence, we have the first government after 8 elections dominated by list MPs. And guess what? They want to help themselves to another $5 million a year of public funding.
Point of order. The Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, the report the member refers to is not a government report. It is a report that has been prepared by an independent panel, which does have a represented or a former Labour MP and a former National MP on it, but it is not a government report. So to attribute it to the government is misleading and inaccurate.
Yeah, it is misleading and inaccurate, but I think for me to stop a member because another member disagrees is inappropriate. If the member thinks that the Honourable Dr Nick Smith is deliberately misleading the House, as opposed to accidentally misleading the House, then he knows his remedies.
Mr Speaker, at the beginning I made absolutely plain that this is a report tabled in Parliament today of which the dominant influence is Annette King, and is a stitch-up job by this government to get extra funding. Now let's come to the next point, and that is with respect to ministerial officers. What this report proposes is an extra 31 staff in parliamentary offices. They say when they switch to being ministers, their staff expands. I've done it twice as a minister. Your staff goes up considerably, and they want to grab that extra funding. Mr Speaker, there are also 2 very subtle changes. This report proposes that Parliament should not have to face the normal budget scrutiny for additional expenditure. It says that there should just be automatic increases for Parliament's own purposes. That's wrong. Parliament should have to face the same budgetary scrutiny as every other government agency for public money. And, Mr Speaker, I have to express concern that rather than the rules and the policy of funding being determined by neutral public servants, that it being politicised under this report. Now, it's justified on this basis that somehow we have to increase the funding for ourselves, that somehow the ratio of MPs to the population has radically changed. Mr Speaker, it has not changed. From the time I first passed the post, there was an MP for 30,000 people. It is about the same. The level of funding as a proportion of GDP has not changed. Only a fortnight ago, the Prime Minister announced that MPs would be giving up their pay increase. There was a saving of less than $1 million a year. This report proposes increasing Parliament's rations by $13 million a year, and I challenge members opposite to say they will not support this report that is nothing less than a rort of public money for party political purposes. During the time of the Clark government, the expenses in real terms of Parliament went up by 25%. Under the 9 years of the National Government, they went up by 5%. There is no justification for this big increase. Far from being concerned about the issues of New Zealanders, what is being proposed is that the biggest increase, not for education, not for health, not for infrastructure, not for security, but for parliamentary spin doctors and political propaganda, and that is a very sad reflection on this Parliament.
A point of order, the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I seek the leave of the House to table analysis that I have received from the Parliamentary Library on the real expenditure for Parliament since MMP was introduced.
The question is that the leave be granted. Is there any objection? There appears to be none. It may be tabled. Marama Davidson.
Malo e no mali e kisea.